intend.
Yesterday you told us he wasn't cooperating. Is that changed?
We're not going to talk about whether he's cooperating or what, if anything, he said. Again, that's talking about the facts and the evidence.
On the federal level, you had mentioned that there is a nuance in the federal statute which would decide between a death-eligible statute or a life imprisonment eligible. What are the distinctions, what are the nuances that govern here which would prompt federal death penalty charges?
Well, there are different provisions, but to give you an example, if someone uses who's a convicted felon who allegedly uses a weapon in the commission of a hate crime, that would put you in the category where you may be death eligible. And unlike at the state level where Steve says he gets to make the decision, at the federal level, that is a petitioning, if you will, of our death penalty panel in Washington, D.C. There's a recommendation made, and the person who would ultimately make the decision whether or not death penalty, imposition of death is appropriate would be the Attorney General of the United States.
Why are the state trials coming first?
Well, one of the reasons is on most occasions, state prosecutors, our system's a little bit more nimble. We can move a little bit quicker than the federal jurisdiction. And so it's appropriate. We've alleged that he's come into the community that I've been elected to protect. He's committed some terrible crimes, and this is why the people of Johnson County have elected me to protect our interest and our people, and so I'm going to fulfill those duties.
But it's up to your discretion. You guys talked it over.
Oh, absolutely. Barry and I have talked about this and how we're going to proceed on this, and there's no animosity between the two of us.
Is it about the death penalty?
No, this is about, and one of the things that I want to emphasize, this is about making sure that justice is done. This isn't about retribution. This is about, we're prosecutors, we're supposed to objectively review the case and make sure that justice is served for the people in the community, for the victims, as in general. So this isn't about the death penalty at all. This is about seeking justice.
Steve, do you have any idea how long this gentleman was in our area? How long he'd been here?
That's, again, talking about the facts, and I can't discuss that.
Will you consult with the families before you do make the decision whether to seek the death penalty?
That is absolutely our standard operating procedure, is to discuss with them. And again, it's so early on in the process, and I've talked to the families, and I'm letting them go through the grieving process and take care of their family members. We have plenty of time to have those discussions down the road.
So if they don't want it, if that's not their wish, would that weigh heavily on your decision?
It's a factor, but I'm not going to prescribe right now what the criteria is or what the levels of those criteria will be.
Mr. Grissom, yesterday you talked about how you felt like you had enough evidence that you believe that this case would soon go to a grand jury. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Well, no, I'm not a heck of a lot more, except to say that the evidence that we have gathered to date leads me to believe that we do have enough. But obviously, so that we don't file what's called a superseding indictment, where you go back and you say we have new evidence, new charges, we want to make sure we have all the facts and address it at one time as opposed to doing it in a piecemeal fashion.
You guys both live here. I wanted to talk personally. How difficult has all of this been for you to hear all these stories? Tell me about emotionally how this is.
Well, unlike what people think, prosecutors do have feelings and emotions, and we're part of the community, and we live here, and so it does have an impact, and you do feel for the people who are impacted by this. But, one of the things you do when you take this job is you've got to set aside your emotions and be objective. And I tell our victims' families, it's not unlike when you go to a doctor. Your doctor stays objective, tries not to have emotion when he's treating you. And it's the same thing with prosecutors. We lose our objectivity if we get too emotional on this. And so it's something that it's a constant challenge for us. It doesn't mean that we don't have feelings about what has happened, but again, we have to focus on what our job is, and that is to seek justice in these types of cases. So.
Let's have just one more question, okay?
Has he requested legal counsel, and if so, would it be a public defender, or does he name somebody specifically?
That's all going to get flushed out here at 1:30 when he makes his first appearance.
I want to thank everybody for coming, and if you have any additional questions as the cases proceed, you can contact the prosecutor's offices later. I thank you for attending, and I thank you for your support.